Good day everyone, we are the Fervent 5 and today we are going to discuss about shareholders equity part 1. The learning objectives are to state the components of shareholders equity, account for the initial issuance of shares of stocks, account for the reacquisition and retirement of shares of stocks, account for stock rights, convertible preference shares, and donated capital. So first, let us define what corporation is. So as defined by the Philippine Corporation Code, it is an artificial being. Sinasabi na artificial being siya kasi para siyang tao na pwedeng idemanda. Usually, ginagamit yung corporation para maiwasan ang mga liabilities. Hindi siya katulad sa partnership na kapag may agreement ng both parties ay ma-form na siya. Dito, kailangan may approval muna ng state or yung tinatawag na Articles of Incorporation, which is inaaprobahan ng Securities and Exchange Commission. Corporation should be formed by at least 5 members not exceeding to 15. So next is the shareholders equity. So shareholders equity, ito yung capital ng corporation. Dito sinasabing may owner's claim against the assets of the corporation. So may 4 na components yung shareholders equity. Yun ay una, share capital. Next is retained earnings, other components of equity, and last is yung treasury shares. So accounting for share capital. Dito may dalawang method tayong ginagamit, which is yung memorandum method and journal entry method. Kapag nagpe-prepare tayo ng shares, memorandum method lang ang gagamitin, meaning no journal entry will be prepared. Sa journal entry naman, meron tayong ipe-prepare, so we will credit authorized share capital and debit unissued share capital. So authorized share capital represents the maximum number of shares fixed in the entity's authorized articles of incorporation that can be subscribed and issued to shareholders. Yung unissued share capital naman, it represents the portion of the authorized share capital not yet issued and is still available for subscription and issuance. So let us differentiate the three. So subscription, contract siya between the purchaser of shares and the issuer, in which the purchaser promises to buy shares of the issuing company's stocks. Subscription receivable naman ay yung remaining amount of the unpaid balance subscription price. It is a deduction to equity since it is considered as a contra equity account. And next is yung subscribed share capital. Ito naman, nagsasubscribe pa lang ang subscriber pero hindi pa siya fully paid. Next is the classes of share capital. May tinatawag na ordinary share capital or common shares. And yung isa naman is preference share capital or preferred stock. So, unahin natin yung ordinary share capital. So, sila yung nagbe-bear ng risk dahil sila talaga yung may-ari ng corporation. So, pag sinabing ordinary shareholder ka, ikaw yung totoong may-ari ng voting rights. Preference share naman, also owners of corporation, pero ang function nila is being an investor. Sila yung preferred or inuuna over ordinary. Halimbawa, kapag may declaration of dividends, ang unang babayaran ay yung preference shareholders. Another example, kapag under liquidation or insolvent ang isang corporation, kapag na-liquidate na siya, yung mga assets na natitira after bayaran yung mga utang, i-distribute mo na siya sa preference shareholders and yung excess ay mapupunta na sa ordinary shareholders. Next is the share premium. So share premium is also known as the additional paid-in capital. So nag-a-arise siya from various sources, which includes una, yung excess over par value. That is, kapag nag-issue tayo ng shares at above par or at above the stated capital. Second is the excess of reissuance, price over cost of treasury shares. Third is yung distribution of small stock dividends. Kapag small dividends lang ang ating ini-issue, see to it na ang measurement nun is at fair value unless par is higher than the fair value. So here is an illustration. ABC Company started operations on January 1, 20X1. Its authorized capitalization is 1 million pesos divided into 10,000 shares with par value per share of 100 pesos. ABC Company received cash subscriptions for 5,000 shares at 120 pesos per share. So it is computed as follows. Next illustration. On January 31, 20X1, nakatanggap daw si ABC Company ng subscription for 2,000 share at 160 per share. To record this journal entry, subscribed share capital are credited at par value regardless of the subscription price, and share premium is credited at the subscription date even for subscriptions that are not yet paid, provided that it is probable that the total subscription price will be collected. So, the total contributed capital of ABC Company is computed as follows. Share capital is 500,000, subscribed share capital is 200,000 less subscription receivable, since it is considered as contra equity account, which is 320,000, and share premium of 220,000 from the sum of our beginning and ending journal entry of share premium. Next is the legal capital. Yung legal capital, para siyang trust fund na iniingatan ng corporation during lifetime of the corporation para sa protection ng mga creditors. So, paano nga ba kinocompute ang legal capital? Una, tingnan mo muna kung par value shares ba tayo o no par value shares. Kapag par value shares, always remember na ang legal capital is equal to issued plus subscribed. So, kapag sinabing legal capital, pera ang pinag-uusapan natin dito. So, issued, it pertains to share capital, at kapag sinabi namang subscribed, ito naman yung subscribed capital. Paano naman kapag walang par value of share? Kapag no par value of share, legal capital will be different. If that's the case, legal capital is equal to issued plus subscribed plus share premium. So, kapag wala par value ang ating mga shares, you have to add the share premium account. Next is share issuance costs. Issuing shares entails expenditures, which is called share issuance costs, are deducted from any resulting share premium from the issuance. If share premium is insufficient, the excess is charged to retained earnings. The normal journal entry is to debit cash for proceeds and credit share capital, since it is always at par, so yung excess will be credited sa share premium. Next is shares issued at a discount. So dito, illegal na mag-issue ng share at below par or stated value. So kapag nag-issue tayo ng shares at a discount, itong discount na to is not considered as a loss of corporation, but is considered as liability of shareholder. Ibig sabihin, pwede natin niyang singilin sa shareholder. So kapag nag-issue tayo ng journal entry at a discount, see to it that the journal entry is to debit cash and discount on share capital, and then credit share capital, which is always at par. So, yung discount on share capital is treated as contra equity account, meaning kailangan mo siyang ibawas sa total shareholders equity. Watered stocks, it is shares issued for non-cash consideration with fair value that is below par or stated value. Secret reserve, it arises when shares are issued for non-cash consideration with fair value that is above par or stated value, but the consideration received is recorded at par or stated value. So, treasury shares. Kapag sinabing treasury shares, ito yung entity's own shares that have been issued and then reacquired but not cancelled. May 3 requirements para masabing treasury shares yan. Una, it must be previously issued and then reacquired by the same corporation, meaning binili natin pabalik from shareholders, and then yung mga shares na in-issue natin and reacquired, hindi pa natin kinakancel. Ibig sabihin, kung hindi pa natin sila kinakancel, outstanding pa rin sila or nag-exist pa rin. So, how do we account treasury shares? So dito, treasury shares are recorded at cost, kaya sila tinawag na cost method. Kapag cash ang pinag-uusapan, meaning cash is equal to face value, pero kapag non-cash asset na ang pinag-uusapan, the cost here is the carrying amount of the non-cash asset. To record the journal entry kapag bumili tayo ng treasury shares, we will debit treasury shares and credit cash or the non-cash asset na ating binayad. Another entry is to debit retained earnings account and credit retained earnings appropriated. Here is an illustration for treasury shares. Next is the retirement of shares. Shares are retired if they have been reacquired and cancelled. Any difference between the total amount removed and the retirement cost is accounted for as follows. First, if the par value and related share premium of the retired shares exceeds the retirement cost, the difference is credited to share premium retirement. If the par value and related share premium shares are less than the retirement cost, the difference is debited in order of priority, which is share premium treasury shares and retained earnings. Delinquent subscription. So these are subscription declared in fault. Pag sinabing declared in fault, hindi siya nakapagbayad sa due date. Delinquent shares are offered for sale at public auction. So, public auction, yan yung bentahan kung saan nagkakaroon ng mga bids. So, delinquent shares are usually offered to the highest bidders. So, by definition, highest bidder, yun yung person who is willing to pay the offer price of the delinquent shares for the smallest number of shares. Baka nagtataka kayo, highest bidder, tapos smallest number of shares. Ang tinitingnan kasi ng corporation code when it comes to the highest bidder is the highest amount per share. Hindi niya tinitingnan yung offer price. Bakit? Kasi yung offer price, fixed na yan. Hindi na siya pwedeng pataasin or pababain. Tumitingin na siya sa amount per share, kaya smallest number of amount. So may tatlong components ang offer price. Una, balance due. Pangalawa, interest accrued, and pangatlo, expenses and other costs incurred in public auction. We have here an illustrative problem. So dito, meron daw subscriber na nag-subscribe ng 10,000 shares at 150 pesos per share. Nagbigay daw siya ng 800,000 as initial payment. And yung balance niya, payable 30 days after. Kaso, after 30 days, hindi siya nakapagbayad. So, yung subscription niya, declared na siya as delinquent and i-offer na siya sa public auction. It is said that the corporation paid auction-related expenses amounting to 20,000 pesos and nagkaroon ng interest na 5,000. So, merong 3 bidders na willing to pay yung offer price. So, si bidder 1, 4,500 shares, bidder number 2, 5,000 shares, and bidder number 3, 6,000 shares. So, the question is, how much is the offer price? And who is the highest bidder? So, the offer price is 725,000 pesos. Kasi 10,000 times 150 shares is equal to 1.5 million. Since nagbayad na siya ng 800,000 as initial payment, ide-deduct na yung 800,000 sa total subscription price para malaman yung unpaid balance. Yung unpaid balance is 700,000. Since na-deklara na as delinquent, na-offer na siya sa public auction. So, magkano na yung accrued interest? 5,000. Magkano yung optional related expenses? 20,000. So, that forms 725,000. Second, who is the highest bidder? The highest bidder is bidder number 1 kasi siya yung may pinakamababang number of shares. Kasi sabi nga kanina, 'di ba, kapag kung sino may pinakamababang number of shares, siya yung highest bidder. Paano naman kapag walang bidders? Pag halimbawang walang gustong bumili ng delinquent shares sa public auction, ang gagawin ng corporation, sila yung bibili ng delinquent shares, tapos gagawin nila yung treasury shares. Next is preference shares. So, preference shares has 4 special features. First is the callable preference shares. Second is the redeemable preference shares. Third is the convertible preference shares. And fourth is the cumulative participating preference shares. Stock rights. So, stock rights are granted to existing shareholders to enable to acquire new shares at a specified price during a specified period. So, when it comes to accounting for share rights, in issuance of rights, it is at memorandum entry. When exercising of rights, it is normal entry or entry for issuance of shares. And when it comes to expiration of rights, it is memorandum entry. preference shares. So preference shares has four special features. First is the callable preference shares. Second is the redeemable preference shares. Third is the convertible preference shares. And fourth is the cumulative participating preference shares. So stock rights. Stock rights is granted to existing shareholders to enable to acquire new shares at a specified price during a specified period. So for accounting share rights, on the date of issuance, no entry. Kaya ipe-prefer natin yung memorandum entry. Kasi from the date of issuance, no consideration is received from existing shareholders. Second, when it comes to exercising of rights, it is normal entry. Then, last is when there is expiration of rights. We're just going to prepare memorandum entry upon expiration of stock rights. Convertible preference share. So, ibig sabihin nito, ito yung preference shares na pwedeng i-convert into ordinary shares. Dito, on the date of issuance, same procedures lang. Ibig sabihin, the journal entry is to debit cash for proceeds and credit share capital. Kapag naman dating sa conversion, kailangan i-compare yung issue price and yung par value of common stock. Kapag mas malaki ang issue price sa present value of common stock, kukulangin tayo sa credit. Kaya naman, credit dito is share premium, ordinary shares, but par value of common stock is higher than issue price. Kukulangin naman sa debit. Kaya debit, retained earnings. So, yun yung rules when it comes to conversion. What if meron tayong preference shares issue with share warrants? So, kapag naman nag-issue ng preference shares with share warrants, kailangan alamin muna kung callable or redeemable. So, kapag callable yon, asahan mo na i-allocate yung proceeds either by using relative fair value in the residual approach. Dito naman sa redeemable, we will treat it as compound of financial instrument. Donated capital. So, it is the shares na natatanggap ng corporation from shareholders by way of donating or donation. Donated shares are initially recorded through memorandum entry and recognized only upon reissuance. So, donated capital may arise from first, donations from shareholders, second, donations from government, and third, donations from other sources. Donations from shareholders may be in form of cash, non-cash assets, or entities' own shares. So, as an illustrative example, mysterious company received 1,000 shares with par value of 400 pesos and fair value of 480 pesos per share from shareholders as donation. The entry to record the receipt of the share include, the answer is D, no entry. Subsequently, mysterious company reissues the 1,000 donated shares at 520 pesos per share. So, to record the reissuance, it is credit to share premium for 520,000. See you on the next part of shareholders' equity.